Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'm sorry I am a few minutes late, but I'm here now. So let's move on. Let's not hold grudges. Let's not be that way. Before we get to topics and bringing in guests and all that good stuff, quick housekeeping stuff. So when we last met, I had 5 pages left. I just started the 5th to last page. I still technically have 5 pages left, but I'm almost done. So I will finish the 5th to last page today. And I don't think I'll actually set a goal for myself to set up the 4th to last page today, but I can easily at least finish the 5th to last today. So as of tomorrow, there will be 4 pages left. That's how math works. It's try to keep up. But anyway, feeling good, feeling actually better for reasons we'll get into. But you can see every time I finish a page, I print it out and put it in a little sleeve here, and it's going to be a fat little book. So that's where I'm at with that. That's good news. The next live stream should be, let me check my calendar before I commit to this, but I think it will be back on Saturday. I did not do Saturday. I did not do yesterday because I was at the convention, which we're going to talk about. Yes. Saturday, March 4th is all free. So the next live stream will be Saturday morning. Number 2, again, keeping with my promise to Dee Dee, 3 random books, semi-random, from my library, explaining what are all these books behind me. So first, and I always try to get a diversity of them. I don't grab just like 3 books from the same kind of thing. This is my favorite nostalgic children's book of all time, The Story of Ferdinand. And I keep it not just because it's nostalgic to me, but because it has lovely, 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 lovely ink work. I'll try and find it good. If you've not seen, let's see here. That's not, I mean, obviously it's 720p and I don't know where the camera is focusing. You'll just have to trust me. There's beautiful feathering, lovely technique. And if you're familiar with D versus M, you can tell this is a strong influence on my style. Like, not afraid of just negative space to represent either like brightly lit stuff, not afraid of like deep dark to kind of represent what maybe wouldn't be that stark. Like, not being afraid of stark contrast. My camera is not going to do this justice, but here is Ferdinand about to sit on a bee. You'll just have to take my word for it that this fur on Ferdinand's butt is just really beautifully done. The bee looks perfect. The flower looks for everything. It's a really, really, really beautifully drawn book. I'm just going to say it. Flawless. There's nothing in here that I think that doesn't quite work. Like, it's just kind of perfect. This is something I would hate myself for taking on. I would hate myself for Gary writing. Again, my camera's not going to do it justice, but you have this bullfighting arena. You have all these tiny, tiny, tiny little circles to represent the audience with like their faces. Plus then half in shadow, so then you're hatching on top of them. What a nightmare. But it's a beautiful book. It's a lovely, sweet book. It's my favorite children's book. Okay, so there's that. This is Sharp Teeth by Toby Barlow. It is a horror novel. It's gimmicky, but it pays off and it works beautifully. It is in free verse. The entire book is written in free verse, like a long form, like the Iliad or the Odyssey or something, and this book, not only did I think it was great, so the premise is basically there are werewolves amongst us. I think this one is set in LA, or LA County at least. And there's basically gangs or packs of werewolves that, just like regular gangs, they're sort of always skirmishing with each other. The main character, his gang just gets annihilated by this rival pack of werewolves. And he has to kind of go underground. He has to hide out for a while. And the way he hides out is when in this book, the werewolves look very much kind of like just big scary dogs, or like half German Shepherd, half wolves, like those kinds of things. They don't look like a howling werewolf. They look more like just a big weird wolf or a big weird dog. He transforms and gets himself caught and adopted, and like it just poses as a dog to lay low. And this isn't really a spoiler, and you'll get a richer experience of this if you read it. There's this middle part of the book where he gets adopted by this single woman, and she takes very good care of him, and he just sort of slips into this lifestyle of being this woman's dog, and is enjoying like regular food from her, and sleeping on the couch with her, and watching TV with her, and and it goes on long enough where one day he realizes like he doesn't even remember what it's like to be a werewolf or a man anymore. He's gotten so comfortable with this dog life. And he has this like moment of identity crisis where he's like, I could accidentally do this forever. I'm way too comfortable. I got to get the F out of here. And like the next chance he gets, like he slips away from her and runs off. And he knows it like breaks her heart, but he's like, I can't. Like this is like, I'm becoming a dog by living like this. And I'm not a dog. I'm a werewolf. And I'm forgetting that I'm a werewolf. And I just found that without going into details, I found this book at a time in my life where I felt like I was working in an accounting department. I wasn't really pursuing my creative goals. I was in a relationship that I kind of felt like, well, it's very comfy, but I wasn't like head over heels. And like, it was just a kind of like, you know what? I'm playing somebody's, like I'm a dog. I'm playing like I'm a dog, but I'm not. I'm a werewolf, and I need to, I can't forget that I wanted bigger, other different things, and that I'm different in this book. So it was personal to me. It's very good at also, like even if you can't really relate to that kind of period in your life, really good, scary, gross, fun, interesting, smartly written, and again has the novelty of like a free verse werewolf novel. Like what is that? So there's that. And then third and last, this is back from my college days, but I always kept it because I think it was very formative. Mortimer Adler's 6 Great Ideas. If you're unfamiliar, Mortimer Adler was a philosopher, I think most kind of popular in maybe the 50s and 60s, I would guess. I'd have to go back and check that. I think he was somehow involved in the Great Books, if you've ever heard that. If older people will remember that. Younger people, it was this like, there was this like list of the books that a well-read, thoughtful, educated intellectual should have read, like, and of course now we'd probably look back on it and say like overwhelmingly Fancy White, but like at the time, like it was this idea of like, this is what an educated person should be familiar with. And they would like, and it was all the things you'd expect. It was like Shakespeare and Great Expectations and Grapes of Wrath, and like all the things that were probably assigned to you to read in school, and probably they were building those lists with the help of the Great Books list. Anyway, the 6 Great Ideas. I'm not going to challenge myself to try to remember right now because my coffee is still kicking in. Let me see if I can. Let's see. I think it's like truth, justice, beauty, liberty, equality. Goodness. Okay. So those are the 6. And it's a philosopher's kind of like, what do these things mean? And what are they? And do they even objectively exist? And like, how do you talk about them? And how do you decide if something is objectively beautiful versus subjectively beautiful? And blah, 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 blah. And it's not long, and it's kind of like this guy, I would sort of describe him as kind of like the Carl Sagan of philosophy, sort of, where he can really distill these sort of big ideas into like just very everyday language to help you think about them. Like I said, I think this was I discovered this in some intro to philosophy or intro to logic class or something in college, read it, thought it was really super interesting and useful to how I thought about things. And I just have never, this is my original copy, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so this is probably 25, almost 30 years old, maybe. Anyway, those are my 3 books. All right. We got all that out of the way. We have 2 guests already. I'm going to let them in. Keith Foster quickly adds, our incoming guest, that the 6th great idea could have been Metallica. It could have. Maybe that's the 7th. There should be a revision. 7 great ideas. All those and Metallica. Mr. Foster, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How about you? Hold on, let me center myself.
We also have Josh Kemble is here. Looks like he's in the midst of a heated Risk game with the computer. I don't know. That's what
How's it going? I am black, and right now I'm at 55 troops. So I'm the lead on the board, and I've been stuck with Australia, which is, I think, the weakest, lamest position because you have to turtle. Yeah. But I'm feeling pretty good about it. So that's. I have it set for like widescreen, so boom, there we go. Hi guys.
Hey, how's it going? I'm
just playing this real quick before I have to work.
You do it. No, absolutely. I went through a long period. Anytime I played Risk, live or on the app or anything, I was a big fan of Australia because it's such a safe. Like if you manage
perfect, I'm in a good position.
It's a good, but
you can't be as aggressive.
I've given it up, and let me tell you why. Now, I'm not telling you how to play, and I'm not saying this is absolute, but let me just explain my thing. So you capture Australia right away, great. You start getting the perks of that. Okay, not huge perks. You don't get a lot of bonuses for having all of Australia. But now the next problem on your to-do list is fucking Asia.
Yep.
Which is like a nightmare. Like there's
Asia.
No way you're going to get that. You're going to end up spending the rest of the game in little fights over trying to capture all of Asia. Yep. Like I now am a big fan of South America. So people in the comments, let me know what you think about that. But I'm a South America guy when it comes to Risk. If I can get South America, I'm happy. I'll settle for other things, but Australia, I have mixed feelings about.
I feel like your best bet
I've never played Risk, but I thought it was such a wide known thing in like the 90s, I don't know, 80s.
Yeah.
To go through Australia, I thought it was the whole like, if you go to In-N-Out, order your fries animal style.
You must do this, and you must do Australia Risk.
So if you're playing Risk, you go for Australia first.
I would say
not off, and Gary's not off. Like Australia is the easiest to capture and defend because you only have 1 point of defense, right?
It's a good beginner move. I think if you're learning Risk, start with Australia.
Yes. But the downside of Australia is later in the game, there's like 3 strategies you can do. You can try to take Asia, and then the whole board will kill you because you have to defend like 8 territories.
It's so they will nibble on the edges of you. Yes. You'll never go 2 rounds holding all of Asia. Like no one's going to let you do that because now the goal. Remember, at the end of a whole turn, like a whole round, you get a bonus for any like large group that you own, that you control. And so no one wants you to get that bonus. So they will all ally like, okay, the goal of this round is
destroy this person.
Fuck Josh. Like don't let Josh
who thinks they can take all of Asia. The second strategy, which is a more competent one, is to go for Africa. But then you make an enemy of Africa for the rest of the game. Yeah. But you could needle Africa the whole game, or third strategy, which is the most successful one, is to just turtle up and let everybody kill each other. Try not to offend anybody, and then at the end, just sweep in and kill everyone.
Yeah, I do, and we talked about that briefly when I went in from the con. I do have a turtle tendency where, well, once I can, generally, this is going to give away basically what I'm trying to do when we do play, but
well, I'm doing early it right
now. Early on, I try to secure something. Yes. South America, Australia, North America, something like just something where I start getting some bonuses. But then I just like dig in. Like I just start, then I'll spend the next few, like some of the mid game even, just preventing people from being able to control an area. Mm-hmm. So like someone's going for Africa, they have it. I'll like at least go on a little expedition to pull away one of those little parts of Africa just to keep them from getting that bonus. But I'm not going to get greedy. I'm still pouring a lot into the homeland. Yeah. You know, like let's just keep it. And then you find that point where you see your opening. It's like, you know what? I could do one massive turn. Yeah. Where I just cut a slice through the whole board and screw everybody's action up. Yeah. And now I'm in a good spot. Like now I can kind of like, so that's usually what I'm trying to do. Yeah. It doesn't always work that way. But.
Yeah. And my main thing that I've learned in the last month or whatever is to be like really passive and really nice to like everyone. Yeah. Because when you're really nice to everyone, when it gets to that last three players, and two players have to decide, like one player is the weakest, they have to decide who's going to win. Right. They're going to prevent one of the two from winning.
Right. You can be a spoiler at that point.
Yeah. Who are they going to mess with? The guy who's been screwing with them the whole game, or the guy who's been like really nice to them, let them have their territories. Like, so I feel like you got to kind of make friends. Anyhow, I don't want to dominate this talking about Risk. I've already
it's great about
that.
I'm
really into it.
I'm looking forward to us organizing some sort of
we must.
Yeah, we must. We
got to jump in on it.
Yes.
I'll be an easy ass whipping when I first start. That's for sure.
I love it.
It's actually
you need that.
It's quick to learn, I would say. Yeah. Especially with the app. If you're playing physically on the board.
Oh yeah,
a lot of dice to roll, a lot of pieces to juggle. It's a little overwhelming. But the app where it's automating all that, and all you have to think about is like, how many troops do I have? How many am I getting? What am I trying to like? Where do I want to attack? It's pretty straightforward. And you can, I think the app version, it's way faster too. Like the physical version, when you're having to screw with all the pieces, that's going to be hours. But the app, I think depending on how many players you have, you can go through in an hour, something like that. It's not too bad. It goes quick. But.
Yeah, and the rules aren't complicated. Where it gets complex is the social dynamics and politics of it. That's the fun of it. Is like figuring out all that extra stuff.
Let's see here. Okay, we've got. Paul Pate wants to let everybody know that Werewolves Among Us is not a premise; it's a reality. So be careful out there. And then Christopher Runsman, everybody, Risky Business, that game. How was the convention, Gary? So
that's what I want to hear. I'm like, okay. I heard some sneak peeks yesterday.
Yes,
and it was interesting. So I want to hear about it, and also the table cost. If you give a good report, I might do that next year.
Well, okay. So that we'll start with we'll start with the brass tacks first. I think the table, which was an 8-foot table, I have a green D versus M tablecloth. Keith has seen before, but that I bring to the cons. It didn't even occur to me. Like Phoenix Fan Fusion, it's a 6-foot table, I believe, and I think so. And so I brought my tablecloth. It's like, well, I'll have my green tablecloth, and I got there and tried to spread it out. It's an 8-foot table, and it's also deeper, so it didn't even come close because this is like a fitted tablecloth that has like the stitching for the it's made. So it's like, well, that's not going to work at all. So this is example number one about like the small con lovely experience. The the guy next to me, who I got to get friendly with. His name is Damon. I want to get his last name right. Damon. I'm going to talk about his books. Knoller.
Okay, not Damon Albarn.
No, no. He was like, oh, they'll give you a free black one. You know, like if you go, like just go ask, like, you know, the guys over there, like they've got a bunch of them. And I went up and I was like, I heard that you have black tablecloths. He's like, oh yeah, and they folded up nice and new. Like, here you go.
Oh wow.
You know, like Phoenix Fan Fusion, you pay for that shit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So it was just like already it's like, and then first of all, okay, 8-foot table. I would say it was probably, how deep was it? I would say it's 30 inches deep. It's a huge, like for me alone, it was a massive. I really could spread out, you know, and kind of have this luxurious setup. But it was like $55. Now, granted, it's one day. It was 11 to 6 on a Saturday. But still, for that big of a table for $55, all you guys and a lot of you watching, like, you know, like when it comes to a con, the math immediate is like, how easy is it to make my table back? Like $55, like I feel like if I'm not hitting that by mid-afternoon, you know, like something's wrong, you know, like no one turned out or something. It's like I should be able to get in the black very fast. So it's like, okay, that's cool. It was in this Shriner Auditorium, which I was aware of, but I'd never been in before. It's like a hall where I guess there are still Shriners, you know, like the dudes, like
yes.
the dad on Happy Days, like with the, you know, the fezzes and like they go and whatever they're doing. So it's like a hall like that, and it's kind of hilarious. Like there's a lobby area where it's framed pictures of presumably important Shriners.
Yes.
I don't know, like these old guys in like big glasses with like the fezzes, and it's like, all right, this
Gary,
is
did
cool.
you get pictures of these photos?
I did. I
should have.
I really should have. I didn't. I got pictures of the like con itself, but I didn't take pictures of like the Shriner shrine or whatever I was looking at. And you got the impression very clearly. I hope this continues to work out this way. The guy who organized it was Ryan Cody, who apparently is, I have to admit, I was unfamiliar with before this, but I guess he's like a colorist and he's done like stuff for DC and like he's somebody. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's a local, and he was like so many of us, was lamenting Fan Fusion, like, why can't we have like a comic con? You know, like the old school, like that's just about comic books. There's no like Jeff Goldblum autograph signings. There's no TV shows. There's no like Cox Cable has like a booth. Like none of this horse shit. Like it's all just comics, and in particular, like really focusing on indies. You know, like, and like people with long boxes of dusty yellow comics who just set up their booth, guys with long beards and their long boxes saying like,
yes, you
know, I got the Silver Surfer from whatever year, like that, where is that? Like, why can't we have that? So he, unlike most of us who just like me, who just sits there and bitches about it. Like, he was like, well, I'll just do one. You know, I'll make the one I want, you know? So he was like looking around for venues and figuring out, and he's like, okay, well, I'm not trying to gouge anybody. We're going to do $55 tables. You need to apply. You can't just sign up. You need to like write like who you are, show me your stuff. Like, are you what we want? You know, and like, then I'll approve it. He clearly found this auditorium which had no idea what it was agreeing to, because it's probably being rented out for like weddings and like bar mitzvahs and you know, who knows what else normally. There's a big open room with a stage up front, and it had their own little windowed vending area where not only could you get like, you know, fries or a Caesar salad or whatever, they had a full bar. Like you could, if you wanted, you could get yourself a gin and tonic and take it back to the table. You could get yourself a shot of something. Yeah, it was just insane. They had beer and wine, and not only that, like there was no con economy prices, because I think it's the effing Shriners. They have no sense of like, that these attendees are used to paying $8 for a bottle of water. Like that they don't. So like bottles of water were $2.
Oh wow!
Like well drinks for something like $6.
Really?
You know, like it's like, are you kidding? Like this is fantastic. Like you're going over there, like I want 3 drinks. Like I want whatever. You know, like people are walking around sipping beers. Like it was incredible. Like I was just, and so already I'm like, this is the best con already I've ever been to. And then like they open the doors and the crowd starts showing up. And this guy, Ryan Cody, he must have known how to like promote in the right places, because it was all the dream crowd that like Keith and I know we've talked about, and Josh, I'm sure we have somewhere in the past, but Keith, we especially did last time, remember, because there was that one guy we talked about, this is the dream customer, who was just going down the line looking for indie books, and when he found one, he's like, I want them all. I want every copy. Which ones do you have? Give me one of each. You know, that was all it was. It was all that guy, you know, like of just looking for like, I want to discover some new indie comic. I've read all the mainstream stuff. It's cool. I like it. But now I'm ready for new. And what they really want, maybe because they're best, I don't know what their deal is. They want issue 1s. Like they're just going down the line saying like, what's your issue 1? What's your first one? I want that, you know? There was a high degree, number of, I got into so many conversations with guys over, they themselves are wanting to get started. Like they themselves are like, so how do you go about, like stuff we talk about on this channel a lot. We talk about on all our, like you talk about on your podcast, Keith, Josh, you talk about on Artcasters a lot, is like, what's your strategy for writing a script? How do you go about figuring out your pages? You know, like I like they got guys who are, they're sitting on this idea and they're like, I just don't even know how to, like, where do I start? How do I start? And they like want to talk to another creator who's like, you know, you're doing it. How are you like, how did you do it? Which are fun conversations. Obviously, that's most of our social media.
Borderline alcoholism is how we all do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So it was. So and that's a delight too for me, you know, like that's definitely in my comfort zone of engaging with a stranger. If they're kind of like, tell me how you did your thing. And then like, and I can explain, it's like, now tell me about your thing. What's the idea you're playing with? And they talk about, well, I was thinking I was going to do something. One guy's like, it's like a time travel thing, you know, whatever. Like they're telling their thing and you get to listen to that and you're like, that sounds cool. And you hope, at least for me, you feel like, well, maybe I encouraged a little bit. You know, maybe like this is the little nudge they need to like, now they'll go home and start writing, you know, like, or really take that next step. And that feels good. Like you want that. But I also, like, that's nice on its own, but I sold steadily. And it's not like I brought hundreds of books, but I figured like, okay, 7 days.
Did you hear the joke, Gary, that I said on stream after you talked about your sales?
No, I didn't. What was it?
Okay. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but you said, it was cool. I sold out of all but 2 books. And then after you left, I was like, I think he only ordered 2 books. That's like,
I brought 4.
The most optimistic tale of like a bad con where you're just like, oh man, I sold out of all books except 2.
But 2. I only brought 2. But anyway, no, I figured I did. Look, this was the first Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival. It was very small, cheap tables. I had no idea how many tickets they sold. They weren't telling us that. 1 day, 7 hours. I didn't want to kill myself in prep. Like it wasn't going to be like a fan fusion thing where it's like, what's my signage? Do I have merch on every level of, you know, and what am I, you know, and I'm in the middle of drawing. I'm trying to wrap up my 3rd book. So it's like, I can't take a week off to do my con strategy. Like I'm going to go, like, what do I already have in my closet? What can I print fast turnaround as like signage and stuff? What stock do I already have like laying around? Like I'm just bringing that. I'm not going to kill myself over this. This is sort of a test. And the only thing I did do a little differently, but I printed this stuff myself. I wanted to try to lean more into D versus M on the branding over Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, because that's a whole separate conversation. I want to get away from dinosaurs versus Marsbots. I think it's a weird misdirect for people. I think it confuses them. I think they hear that and they think it's like a kind of a fun B movie, Mars Attacks.
Yeah,
kind of
like
thing.
lighthearted. Yeah.
And then they read it and it's a totally different thing. And I think there's a time in the past I kind of loved like, oh, I subverted expectations. I'm not looking to shell game my audience. Like I would like to give them a better sense of like what you're going to get. So now I lean more into Scott Serkland's thing of like, if Quentin Tarantino did an X-Files, like I hit that kind of hard with the pitch.
Yeah.
And I also emphasize like small character stories against a big sci-fi backdrop. You know, like I try to like give them a better, like this is character driven, it's anthology, these are standalone, you can read them in any order. It's richer, it's more adult oriented, like just give them a better sense. And I don't even mention dinosaurs in the pitch because like that will be the surprise while they're reading is like, what is going on here? You know, like that, they can have fun with that. I would rather misdirect them in that way than the way I have been where it's like dinosaurs versus Marsbots. And then they pick it up and they're reading like this thing about poor Jenny Burke. Like they, you know, they don't know. Like, so anyway, so I did do that with all my new signage. It's D versus M. And I never said dinosaurs versus Marsbots once the whole day. But I brought 15 copies of each book.
Nice.
Which to me felt like any other con experience, that would be a great day. If I sold 30 books, like, you know, and to me that was like, and I always go into a con, Keith knows this firsthand, I always go in like, I'll sell 2 books.
Yeah.
You know, like that's always my attitude. And part of it is protective, you know, where it's like, I won't get my heart broken. But also I think that's just a good, you know, like if you get put too much on this, it's like going into a casino and saying like, I'm going to win $1,000.
Yep.
You know, like you should go and say like, I'm going to just have fun playing. And like, and I'm not, you know, I think that's the right mindset.
Agreed.
So I brought my 15 books.
What you should not say in casino is, I'm going to go make friends at the sports book.
Yeah. Is that no, absolutely not.
It's a bit. You know, we all find ourselves in conventions at Vegas one time or another, even if they're not ours. And I one time I went recently, like 5 months ago, with my wife. And she was doing something, and I went in, and I was like, I'm going to hang out in the sports book all day. And hanging out in the sports book all day reminds you why you should not hang out in the sports book all day. So it's a good thing to do every now and then because you're like, wow, these people interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no, hate and fear them. Yeah, they're excited. Yeah. So I brought my 30 books, and I had covered my table within an hour or two, just because it's that crowd, like I was telling you about, that kind of customer. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the day, I only had 2 books of 1975 left. That's all I have in my inventory. Like everything else went, and so it was great. I mean, it was unlike a lot of con experiences, which we all know here can be very fraught and mixed bag. Like sometimes I don't know, I won't speak for you guys, but sometimes I have a con experience where it's like, this is great, this was fun. Some on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes I come away and it's like, I don't know if I ever want to do that again. Yeah. You know, like I think I'm over cons, you know.
Or you know, the worst ones where you're just like, maybe I'm over comics. You know?
Maybe it's well, I had I can't talk about it on air because it was but I had a conversation with an owner of a very beloved comic book shop in the Phoenix area. I won't get into it. Who is talking about how some comics that you see kind of make you feel like I'm not into comics anymore. And how because the way he was describing it, he's like, I'm from the Church of Comics. I love comics. Like it's my favorite entertainment medium, like hands down, not even close. And when I read some books from big places and from indies, you know, not only do they break my heart, it makes me wish people weren't reading them because I'm worried it's going to drive them away. Like they're going to read this and realize like, this is garbage. And like, they'll never come back, you know? And so he gets like this visceral, some books, and he was naming the books, but like he reads them and he was like, this is everything that's wrong with comics. This is killing it. Like people are reading this and they're feeling burned and they'll never come back, you know? And like, and especially he was talking about, it was interesting, like these like super low run variant covers, metal covers, like, you know, it's a weird, like, and then they get it like, you know, like rated where it's like a 9 point whatever, and someone they're selling, and it's this garbage book that nobody cares about, and someone just spent $400 on it or $800 on it or whatever, and it's all like a pyramid scheme, you know, like just to like, I'll sell you this expensive thing, now you have to try to sell it before everyone wakes up, you know. And he's like, this is the kind of stuff, this is the biggest threat to comics, is this garbage, like this weird kind of like artificial value. You know, like it was very interesting. But anyway,
right. Well, but that's I want to bring up like that.
Yes, please.
That's what Japan has right about comics that we never did. You know, I think it goes. I'm pretty sure Scott McCloud said this. It's the bookstore versus comic store argument. You know, you go into a bookstore and you can buy cookbooks, you can buy history books, you can buy fiction, you can buy nonfiction, you can buy instruction manuals on computers, you can buy humor, you can buy children's books. You go into a comic shop. 80% of the shit is superheroes, right? And it's like, I got nothing against superheroes, man. Superheroes got me into comics. I still read a few. In fact, I just dusted this thing off because I wanna dig into it. It's Fantastic Four Omnibus #1, right? So
that's great.
Our first love is superheroes, but that doesn't mean I want 80% of a comic store to be them,
right?
Yeah. And then you get into but so like in Japan, comics are about everything. And they don't care about collectability. Like the only thing that makes a book collectible is if it comes out and everybody likes it and you have a copy. You know, like there's a simplicity to it that like this is popular because I got it before everybody and it's valuable, as opposed to it's got a, you know, platinum whatever fake platinum Easter egg, you know, eggshell cover or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, and we're all 100% of that school of thought. I know that. Mm-hmm. And I've often like said, I think Josh and I have talked about this. Like, can you imagine if a bookstore was set up like a comic book store where you go in and you have to first find your book based on the publisher? Mm-hmm.
Here's the
like, you know, like you go to comic shops, it's like Marvel, DC, Image, like, so it's like, okay, where's your Simon and Schuster section?
Where the hell
is
Guys, I only read Random House books. I'm sorry.
Yes, Random House. I prefer Random House. Yeah, right. It's insane. No, I totally agree. You know, and that's part of why I like you. I have no one get me wrong. I have nothing against superhero books. Some of my fondest comic memories are reading superhero comics. But that's also why my books are not that. I feel like that is well-trodden terrain. You know, there's plenty of that. And I do have the opinion, I can always be proven wrong. I'm always open to be proven wrong. That, like, I don't know if there's much new to say in that. Like, I don't have anything to contribute to it.
Yeah,
like
you don't have any new direction to the conversation.
No new direction. But, like, I don't. Someone else. If they have a great idea, go for it. I don't. If someone told me like your next comic has to be a superhero comic, what would it be? I would be stumped. Like I was like, I don't know, because I feel a lot of pressure to do something a little, you know, like something fresh. And like it can be done. Like Scott Lost. Like I love his book. Like I love his books, and he figured out the angle. I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to. That's why it's like I'm doing my thing.
Right there with you. Yeah.
So no, it was great. And also, and this is something I don't want to get too therapy session about it, but I wanted to get your guys' reaction. It was a much needed kind of pick me up when I'm at the tail end of drawing, like, you know, again, 56 weeks of drawing.
Yes.
About 4 weeks left. And I think I've said it on the show, but I know I've said it in my personal life. I am burned out. Like I am at the edge where it's like, this is enough drama. Like this is a lot of nights and weekends that have been sacrificed on the altar of comic and in a row, you know, and I was dragging, and I have to admit, like I came away from that show feeling revitalized, like just from people buying your book, from people excited about your book, from people complimenting it, from people saying like, I love your banner, it looks so cool, I love like your cover design, you know, like flipping through it, that, like, I love that idea, you know, what it like that, it was like a second wind. I didn't realize how much I was needing that.
Yeah.
And I came home after a day of conning where usually I am fried. You know, like usually I just want to come home and like nobody talk to me. You know, like I gotta now recharge. And usually because I have another day of it to do or another few days of it to do. It's like, all right, I'm shutting down now. Like, you know, like I gotta regather my strength. I came home and got to work drawing my page. Like I felt like, all right, let's knock this out. And I feel it's held on today. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit was how conflicted I feel about that. How conflicted I feel about how good external validation feels. You know, like I like, to me, and I don't know if this is just me, I want to know if either of you guys are in any way the same. My reaction to positive feedback, negative feedback, I'm pretty easy about, just like, it wasn't for you. Like, it doesn't really, if it's a criticism that sometimes it'll be a criticism where it's like, yeah, you're right. You know, like then I'll sit with that. But like, if I feel like it's just, this wasn't for you, like, you know, like a simple one with mine is like, you should color it. I don't like black and white. Like that does not affect me at all. Like it runs right through me like a sieve. That's fine. You know, like I
told people. Yeah, I used to get upset with that one, Gary. I want you to keep going, but
no, go ahead.
There was one time, you know, like what happens when someone comes to your table and says, "I'd buy this if it were colored." That they are clearly communicating they're not going to buy it. So therefore, if you make an enemy, right? And so I think in my case, I think one time I said, "Well, I can color it if you want." one copy for $1,000. You want to pay $1,000 for it?
I'll sit right now. Yeah. Scott Loss will probably loan me his markers. I can just sit here right now and go through it and like, you know, like all you want. So no, I mean, that has no effect on me at all. Because I'm better at, I think, fielding negative feedback than positive. Positive is very difficult for me, and I can't. The only comparison I was thinking about when I was driving home from the con, the only analogy I could come up with was, I love how it feels. Like I like it, and it's not I don't think it's a imposter syndrome thing where I'm like, ugh. No, you're wrong. Did you see this panel? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like that. It's, to me, I react to it as if it's like a sugary treat where it's good, but I have this gut impression it's bad for me. Like that I shouldn't like this so much, you know, that it's a trick, and not that they're being tricky. I believe them. I take them at face value. I feel like it's like a dangerous thing to get hooked on, you know? Like, I guess it's like a cigarette. Like, it's like, yeah, that's kind of fun. Like, but like, do you really, like, I don't want to make this a thing where like I'm regularly enjoying my post-con cigarette. Like, that's not, you know, like, because now this could get away from me.
Yeah.
So that's always been my attitude about positive feedback, whether I'm talking to fans, whether I'm talking to fellow creators who are giving me nice feedback, whatever it is. It's like, I kind of like, thank you, I appreciate that, and I try to like let it go right away because I have this idea in my head, and I've been aware of this for a while, and I can't really explain the origins of it, that any satisfaction I get out of doing this should be self-generated. It should be entirely self-generated, and I never want to get hooked on like what's keeping me going with it is validation from some other person that I can't control. Like I need it to be like I'm enjoying it. I'm happy about it because I am happy about it. Like, you know, whatever. But at the same time, like I said, I'm like feeling pretty high off a good experience and feeling like it gave me a necessary little pep talk, you know, metaphorically, like going into the final stages of this latest book. So am I the screwed up one? Have either of you guys had that kind of weird reaction? Like, are you guys better at compliments or positive feedback? How do you think about it? when I say I feel like 100% of my satisfaction with this should be internally generated, does that sound ridiculous to you? Does that make sense to you? Like, I'd be curious. I need an outside perspective.
I'll go toe to toe with you a little bit on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I jotted down a few things. The first thing is that, so for me, Gary, I don't view compliments as a sugar rush. I view them as nourishment, right?
Okay.
Nourishment. I view them as nourishing. I like pick the most nourishing meal you can have, and that's how I view positive feedback. Negative feedback.
It's not a donut. It's broccoli and salmon.
Okay. Yeah. Well, negative you can have negative nourishment too. Like when you were 8 years old, broccoli is negative nourishment. You hate the fact.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so for me, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a slut for it, right? But I am going to say that the line, there's a line that I quote a lot. I'm actually shocked. I don't think I've ever quoted it to you, but it's the Kurt Vonnegut line from Slaughterhouse-Five when the protagonist goes to meet his idol, Kilgore Trout, the author. And the author is like shocked that a fan is coming to visit him. And he says, all these years I've been opening my window and making love to the world. And I feel that is what, in a lot of ways, that sums up what writing is.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What sitting at a typewriter or sitting at a computerized drawing thing or sitting at your art board and drawing. I mean, it's a solitary endeavor, right? Mm-hmm. We're not musicians. Well, I'm a reformed musician, right? But we're not actors. We're not stage. We're not anything dancers. We're not anything that gets us feedback in the real.
The audience is kind of out of our sight. It's behind some curtains somewhere. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, getting that little bit. There's another quote somewhere a person said where like I could live for a week on a compliment, and it's a slippery slope. You don't want to be, you don't want to get addicted to compliments. But I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying the fact that you got feedback and with actually feeling whole from it. I think the only time it would be dangerous is if you realize that there's a trend there and it takes you away from something that you were going to do anyway. What if I actually
it's affecting your creative choices? That's absolutely like a red line for me. It's like no.
Yeah. So I have zero issues with it. I don't think you should feel guilty at all. I think you should feel good, and I'm happy that you actually came home from this thing and were energized enough to want to make comics.
Yeah.
And I'd say the compliment thing, just on that note, I've had to work really consciously to get better at accepting positive feedback as a creative, because what I found was I was actually putting people off, where somebody goes out of their way to say something nice, and then I would belittle them by basically taking away the compliment. Yeah. And people actually respond pretty well with you just being like, thanks. Like, that's all it takes is just, thank you. I'm glad you saw that, or thank you. That means a lot.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate saying that. And
and I understand the instinct, because I grew up in a, where you're supposed to, like, my dad was a humble guy, he wasn't a braggart, and so I grew up like very much learning, like, you're not supposed to you don't want to be the cocky asshole. But at the same time, like, taking a compliment, I think, is a sign of maturity. Like, I think I only changed that because I started noticing people who did at like conventions where I'm like, I love your work. And instead of being like, really, like, blah, 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 they'd just be like, oh, thanks. Like, that means a lot. It made me feel better.
What's weird is, you feel better. Like, I like that when I can go up to someone like Mike Mignola or Jay Gonzo or whoever and be like, I've always been a huge fan of your work. I really, really love it. And they're like, and they seem very genuinely like, thank you. It's sort of like, Mignola, thank me. Like,
imagine if Mignola was like, I mean, that's your opinion, and you're like, wait a minute, what?
Right. That would be a really weird encounter if I went up to Adam Hughes and was like, hey, I love your pinup-y stuff. It's cool. And he's like, there's better people out there. Like, I'd be like, man, okay. Like, that would be weird. Yeah.
No, I have an interesting thing Okay, go ahead. Sorry. No, you're not done.
Keith.
Go for
I
it.
was just going to say, I agree with you on that. I mean, it makes sense. I think it ties to this. I don't know, man. I've never quite understood what imposter syndrome means. Someone needs to like explain it to me, I think. But I do think that, oh man, I sort of lost the thought, but I know what it was. That sometimes people will give you a compliment, and to Josh's point, like I did that too. You'd kind of like, but what didn't you like? Right. But
you're like, really, that panel? Because like the perspective was kind of off.
Right.
Exactly. But I think it also speaks to like, you get comfortable, you get more comfortable with your stuff. And I think there comes a point where you either need to realize, or someone tells you, that just because it's easy to you doesn't mean it's easy to everyone. Right. Because here's the thing, it wasn't easy to you. It seems easy to you now because you've put in hundreds, thousands of hours getting better at the thing you do. So it does have a degree of ease. And therefore, I think you poo-poo it because it's like, oh, well, I just did this thing and that thing, but it's like, Oppenheimer probably said the same thing. Oh, I just did this thing, that thing, and then I made a nuclear bomb. It's like, well, that's significant.
That's a lot. Yeah. Well, and that's true. You lose sight of the fact that, however, like I like, for example, I'm not going to recount. It will be creepy if I recount all the compliments. But one example. So people liked. I don't have it here because I'm sold out and it's all boxed up. But oh wait, I do have the 2 left. Hold on. So it's all the A covers, for these. And I had a couple people compliment. They liked like the cover, that it was very minimal and kind of very graphic art and stark, and like it invites questions. Like, it's not like a very busy cover where there's a lot going on. You can't even really tell what this is about. It kind of invites questions, so you want to pick it up. And that was all, of course, calculated on my part. But honestly, I mean, if you're semi-experienced like I am, and you guys, I mean, well, Josh, I know you're not really the graphic designer guy, Keith, but this did not take long. Once you have the concept of this technically does not take long to do. Like, this is not a arduous task to put this cover together. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of topography. I need to get this like blood effect right. And otherwise, like, it doesn't take long. It comes together quickly. But and people are complimenting it. So there is probably a visceral reaction of like, not that big a deal. But to your point, to do this quickly, or to even come up with the idea, or to even like kind of think it through, like, this is decades of like design and illustration experience to say like, well, this would probably work, and that's really what they're complimenting. You think of it as like the actual effort of that moment making the thing, but actually there was a whole journey to that ability to do that, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it'd be like belittling a band who made somewhat simple music, like, I don't know, like the Ramones, right? Or belittling, one of my favorite bands, the Meters, because the Meters play really simple, basic, minimalist funk, and it's like, that's why it's cool. They thought of it. It's still cool. Like, so what if they're not, noodling on every instrument? It works because it works. Yeah.
Well, and people, and this, I'm not comparing myself. I'm not on this level, but people, I think, and especially lay people, don't appreciate that minimal is actually harder than elaborate, to do well. I mean, like the de facto popular standard, like Apple packaging, or something like that, or Apple products, like how those things look. Like, that's actually people look at that. It's like, this can't look, it's just a box, it's like, no, you don't appreciate like these are like really, really brilliant, experienced people off somewhere cooking, like figuring out how to make this work, figuring out how this this is much harder to do than an elaborate box with a lot of materials in it, a lot of waste, a lot of, this is not something anybody can do, and it's why it's premium.
Yeah, it's something, Gary. It's something we've talked about a little bit offline on a similar note, in terms of like storytelling, in terms of finding it's a lot harder to describe someone accurately in 8 words than it is in 800. Mm-hmm. If you take 800, anybody can describe somebody in 800. Can you do it in 8?
Right. And really get distill it down, if you can get, that is something I've been wanting to do. I think it might be a recorded video, but we talked about it offline in our off YouTube. We talked about it. About comparing and contrasting the first 5 minutes of Up and what I was comparing, like the 3rd episode of Last of Us, and then like the conversation we had on a podcast once about like what's your character's favorite kind of chip, that kind of thing, like how to like really have economy. Like if I give you like what are the things I can tell you about a character that you immediately get a sense, and some of it is, I think it's by associate, like the way I've been thinking of it, and maybe I'll go into this more in like a future video. Mm-hmm. In a way, I think it's a clandestinely drafting the reader into participating in the creation of the character, where you're bootstrapping a character by giving them a tidbit that they have lots of associations with. So like for the example of like Ruben Garcia, the young man in black in the D vs. M series, where I said like I think he smells like Old Spice. I think the reason that kind of helps is there's an older man in your life, who smells like, it's your dad or your uncle or somebody like that, some family friend or something who's an older guy. Like I'm talking about the old ceramic bottle Old Spice, like the kind of old school, like and you get all these associations of like the man who's around, the guy who will fix your car or kind of help you, like something like and you pull all this memory with it. And I kind of tricked you to like help me sketch out this character, and it's more personal and it means more to you and it's more real because you're bringing, it's like, it's the monster in the horror movie I'm not showing you, so you're imagining it. It's, it's the shark in Jaws where, you have to picture it. And like, now you're participating, and so it's working better because you're like, you don't realize you're doing it, but in your head, you're like, oh, so the kind of guy who will show you how to bait a hook when you're fishing. Like I didn't write that, you wrote that, but now you're like you've got it. Right. I think that's the trick, and I think that's the thing you sort of see in common with those examples of like the first 5 minutes of Up. Like you have these sort of archetypical character. You have like the kind of dweeby serious guy and the sort of free spirit half of the couple that like helps him understand like the beauty in the world and see things and live a little bit, where he's kind of like, he's very nice, but he's kind of like, he's more about the stability of creating a house they can live in. And, and you look at that, it's almost like a horoscope. You look at it and no matter what, like I could give you a horoscope and blank out, which is a Capricorn, is it Aries, is it whatever. And you read it, like, yeah, that's me. Like you look at this couple and Up and you identify with one half of that. You're like, I've been in relationships where I'm that one, like I'm the free spirit, or I'm the serious one, I'm the grounded one, or I'm this. And now again, it's tricked you. Like now you're like co-writing, and you're even more invested because you're making the choices that affect you the most, whether you realize it or not.
That degree, but that's important. I mean, I can't remember where I've said this kind of thing, but I've talked a lot about the idea of the meter of. In fact, Scott, one of the episodes in the chamber for Making Comics that's going to air either this tomorrow or the next Monday is where we talk about overshowing and overtelling and how it's don't do that, right. And because you have the needle, right? You have this needle of audience. I think we have talked about this before because I can picture me moving my hands, but to quickly do, it's like undertelling's way over here and everybody's confused. Overtelling's way over here. And everybody, like you're choking people.
Yes,
you're so. I actually think you're so unconfident as a writer or as a creator that you're giving them everything, and it gives them no space to play. And so what you want is you want to hover.
Metachlorians.
Midichlorians, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, I'm on a big old horror novel bender right now, and they're all campy. There's this book called Paperbacks from Hell that details, hundreds of old campy novels that have now become, of course, collectible because they were in the book. But I mean, a lot of them are, B- C level schlocky stuff. Great ideas, but in almost every case I've read so far of them, there's overwriting there, and it's just like, dude, you're not letting me think at all. You're not letting me play at all, and I am just exhausted.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I want to real quickly address Frank in the chat saying, "Is Josh playing Risk as you have a serious interview?" Frank, in Josh's defense, and I mean this very honestly, there's nothing more serious than the game of world domination. Like, I mean, who do you want ruling the world, Frank? A benevolent king like Josh, or who, God knows who? Like some AI.
I mean, Frank, looking at this game, do you want Pink to win when he's overextending and trying to take Africa, South America, and North America?
Clearly.
Do you want Europe to win when they're sitting there hobbled up when they're in an active position where they could be actively attacking? No, you want Australia to win because Australia has covertly been trying to line these two up so they kill each other.
Yeah, look at that 105 in, what is that, Germany, Poland? No, that's Ukraine, isn't it?
Yeah, you see that 119? That's me.
Yeah, I know. Well, you got to get them up to the border, man. What are they doing way that far back?
I'm trying to induce a fight between between Pink and Blue because that's my best play right now.
Are these real opponents or AI?
Real opponents, real people.
Oh, okay.
These are humans.
I see.
If it was AI, I would just be like stacking and attacking, but I'm trying to.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like AI, like you need to now start pounding.
Because on the other side of the screen, you don't see that Blue is kind of pissed because Pink got really overextendy and took North America when they should have just filled in South. Yeah, so now Blue's like, dude, what are you doing? And now Blue's trying to attack both of us, which is a good position for me.
Yeah, so you are turtling a little bit.
Oh, I am one. I was stuck with the turtle strategy from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I was
that to me, painting with a broad brush here. This is the danger of Australia because like Asia is a nightmare. So you end up just kind of being really like, I'm just going to try and hold because it's so hard to try and hold Asia. Like you're settling for holding Australia. But.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get Asia. I'm just trying to get them pissed at each other more than me, so they like kind of kill each other, and then I'll move out.
But boy, that one is that Russia, the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what is this very northern? I don't remember.
Like I could pop his territory, but if I do that, then he comes at me and he's mad, and then we're in a war. And I'm like, no, I want him to think we're allies.
One country per turn. Yeah, so you want to at least take something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So I'm just kind of carving little things in Asia with no expectation of taking Asia.
Or holding it even, just so you got something. Yeah.
But I want Blue to feel like we're friends because I haven't broken his territory. I'm not interested in his territory so that he takes out Pink. This is way too extended to talk about, but this is what I'm thinking. That's my strategy.
I'm trying to unravel. It looks like Blue though is kind of screwed.
Blue is done. So Blue is going to be the decider in the game because we're at a 3-person game right now.
But he's got that awful 105. His 105 could take almost all of Asia if he got the idea.
Yeah. What he should do is honestly like move his 105 down and then just sweep yellow and close me in because I'm locked. So it's like, that would be a good strategy.
Well, where he got his 105 makes no sense to me either. Like, I don't know what he's also kind of doing a weird turtle thing where it's like that is not helping him at all. And if I was especially this purple or pink, I would be inclined to clean up all those ones around him and make him deal with having to figure out how to divide up his 105.
So here's a weird thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put a 17 on Kamchatka. Anyhow, so now
big fan of Kamchatka.
Yeah.
It's in one of my books.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good spot because you can attack Alaska from it, and there's only a 1 on Alaska. So.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to real quickly run through books I picked up just to give these guys some shout outs.
Yes, do it.
So the guy next to me who I had another lucky, we've all talked about this quite a bit. One of the big anxieties about a con is who are your neighbors? Because that can really be maybe the biggest role in how good or bad your con experience was. You know, I've had all types. I've had lucky good experiences with like Keith and Scott, and I've had the opposite end where it's like I actively was blaming my neighbor for tanking me. You know, where I feel like they're actually screwing up my action.
Were they a carnival barker?
The carnival barker, the one who was just actively trying to engage anybody who walked by, whether they
like
were looking
people are in front of your booth and they're like talking to those people like, hey, have you checked out? And you're like,
well, or people are a table away walking down and they're like,
right?
Like, yeah,
they'll 20 feet down the row and they'll be like, hey, can I get you to come to my book? And then they just start speeding up and they go right by your booth.
Right. Yeah. And people react, like a lot of people react when a homeless person is saying like, hey, do you have $1? Where they just start like, they're like, and they just start power walking, you know, and and to get away from this lunatic, they're power walking right by my table. Like that was a nightmare. So I've had all kinds of, and then everything in between, you know. The guy I was next to, Damon Knoller, he's from Boise, Idaho. He's a writer. Super nice. Easy to talk to. He had a great rap with customers. He had just the right level of, you could tell he was a seasoned guy when it came to the con thing. He knew when to sit there and chill. He knew when to wait for the right amount of eye contact to be like, you know, here's my pitch and like, let me know if you have any questions. If they showed a little more interest, he knew how to like when to reel. Like he was I actually admired, I wish I was as good as him at like when, like feeling out how to grab somebody. And we also did a good job playing off each other. Like right away, we realized like, okay, the other person's not a psycho and he's cool. Like, let's try to help each other. So if someone was talking to me and like I was wrapping up with them, I'd say like, hey, you know what? And also you should check out this guy over here. He's got some really cool, and vice versa. Like we do that. And he would like, after a while, he'd be making sales and he'd be like, are you into UFOs? You should check out this guy right here. You know, and so we were helping each other get sales. We were swapping our square reader back and forth. Like it ended up being like, that's the kind of experience you want with your neighbor, where it's like, oh, thank God. Because I forgot to bring a pen and people were asking me to sign stuff. So I kept having to like, can you loan me the Sharpie again? Loan me the Sharpie again. He forgot his square reader. So I was passing him my square reader all the time. Beautiful. Great guy. Really nice. I passed him also his info to you guys in the Artcaster chat, like thinking like he would probably be a good Artcaster's guest because
I saw that. It's we'll have to reach out because I know next week is now I'm blanking out. But next week's Scott's channel, and then we have Lori Calcaterra on the week after again.
Yeah.
Because she has another book coming out. And
new Kickstarter coming. Yeah.
But it might be good for like, I don't know. I'll see if Corey wants to book him or I can book him for another time. So
yeah. So I think definitely for some time. But anyway, one thing I admired, and I mentioned it in our Making Comics chat, he has what I described as Omega level pitch ability with like he can distill. I've always admired Keith especially for his ability like to come up with a concept that you can in like a sentence like, you know, capture people's. So like Keith, you know, please Kadoja, tell me what Kadoja is.
Kadoja Giant Monsters Meet H.P. Lovecraft.
Giant Monsters Meet H.P. Lovecraft. And I love it because like especially at a con, 95% of the people who walk by are into at least one of those things, you know, so like that they will stop you know, and be like, whoa, you know, they want to know about that. And then now 3 protectors.
Kung Fu in space.
Kung Fu in space. Like, I love it. It's great. So go ahead, Josh.
I just had to cut you off for 2 seconds to show you my strategy is working. So check out Blue going AWOL on Pink. because Pink was screwing with Blue that whole time, where I could have popped his territory. That could have been me. Now the game's mine. So
yeah, well, now you can at least take Europe.
Oh,
easily.
Yeah, easily.
But you know what? I mean, these two guys are seething about you right now.
Oh,
privately.
yeah.
Like, they know, like, this fucker, look at him with his 150 people just chilling.
Yep.
You know, like, they know you're going to be a nightmare at some point. So, like, and even if you sit there forever like a turtle, like, they know someday you're going to have to go in there. You're going to have to go and try and knock out, like, the army you're going to take on 150. Like, if you just decided to be a dick and chill there and never move.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're going to have to amass an army of like 250, 300 people just to pull you out of, you know, like, it's a nightmare. Anyway.
Oh, this is beautiful. Anyhow, sorry to bring that up. I just thought.
No, it's good. His pitch is the actual title of the comic, Kaiju Libre. and people would be like, what? And he's like, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's kaiju, and they're like wrestlers, you know? and it's, that was a concept. We got two kaiju. One looks like what are these called? I forgot. These are the it's a something bear. It's those little organisms that you can. Is it a water bear? Someone Google. But anyway, based off that, you got like a kind of a cat dinosaur woman. You got a little flying referee.
That's amazing.
It's great. It's so much fun. I have not read them yet. I just got home last night. I have my pile that I haven't gone through yet. But the art is legit. Kaiju Libre, I can say from personal like observation, like it's people will stop. And what I was mentioning to the Making Comics guys, very often, and this is I do not see very often, he wasn't even engaging. The customers were screeching to a halt, seeing this title and saying, like, they were engaging him. They'd be like, Kaiju Libre, you know, like they wanted to talk about this. Which, I mean, that if you have a title that actually makes the customer engage you, wow, that's great. You know, like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then this other one, Peltz, he's also the writer. Also has very good art. But the funny pitch was this, like he was talking about, it looks like it's mythical creatures up in the woods of Michigan and stuff like that. But the pitch was lumberjack horror, you know, and one guy he actually asked, he's like, do you like lumberjack horror? And like the guy was, I can't say I know what that is, but I'm intrigued. Like, tell me.
Lumberjack horror is great. I mean, it's
a great little pitch. Lumberjack horror. It's like.
Yeah, it's very like System of a Down. You just take a couple words that don't make sense, like, you know, chainsaw salad dressing, and you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
My interest. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but tell me more.
Yeah, like what would that be? So,
yeah.
Anyway, super nice guy. I've not read these yet, so I can't comment on his writing ability, but he seems to know his stuff. He seems to have had really good success. He's got his books actually down in comic shops here in the Valley. So he's actually been pretty active about trying to find comic book shops that will carry indies and shipping them out to them. And there were being here in Phoenix, there were a lot of guys who came by and stopped at his booth and it's like, I know this. Where have I seen this? Because they remember it from comic stores. And because it's so distinctive, like Kaiju Libre, like it sticks. Like it's like, I know I've seen this. Like this is a thing where they've noticed it. So he was doing pretty good. This was another one I picked up. I love the art. I'll show you. But Rotten Fruit, like Cody, I'm not sure how to say this last name, if it's J or J-E, and Gabby V. This was a guy who came by and he said it was another kind of, I was doing a lot of like local comic stuff where based on, because mine is very like Arizona set comic. So I kind of now am interested in like, I want to see people who have made their home or their home state or whatever kind of the center for whatever their story is. This is, I think, West Virginia. And it also is like local myths and legends about creatures in the forest and stuff like that. I want to show you this art. What I like about it black and white, and red. That's it. So it's kind of like the covers for D versus M, where it's predominantly black and white with splashes of red as needed. And I think but let me show you. Again, my camera's not going to do it justice, but
yeah, that's always a bold move to make whenever you do black and white with a spot color, because from a printing standpoint, you're paying full price. You're paying
you're paying for a color book. Yeah,
you're paying.
I'm going to maximize this just for a second to see
exactly. Yeah, I dig it.
And
that's cool.
And no, I'm not casting any shade on indies. I am an indie. But the level of inking, like the quality of it, is uncharacteristically good for an indie, in my opinion. You know, like it's like this is like top for, and that's, I mean, by any standard, it's good. But like, especially when there's an expectation with indies, like, yeah, it might be good, it might be bad, it might be just okay, whatever. Like, I feel like this is uncommonly good ink work for an indie. You know, just these.
That's cool. I kind of like
and of course, being red being the only color he uses, naturally, when things get violent like that, you know, that gets useful. But
that's cool.
Let's see here. There's one panel. I don't know how well it'll show up, but there's this monster attacking a guy in his truck.
Oh, I love it.
It's really fun. This guy again, so he traveled from West Virginia, I guess, like to see this con and to pedal his, like, go around, and he was going around and talking about his book with people and passing out like business cards and flyers and stuff, which I have to admire. Like I would never travel out of state just to pitch my book at a con. Like I would go out of state maybe to have a table, you know, but that's someone who's believes in the cause, you know, like
I'm going out of state to
that's
at a con at this con, because it sounds like it was great.
It was great.
Yeah, I know. I would love to get in the next one.
Well, right. I'm sure there'll be a second year, and but I'm also sure the prices will go up because like there's going to be a lot of interest. But I will keep you guys in the loop, like as soon as I hear about what's 2024 looking like. Because if it's anything like this one, I would tell any indie in the world, and especially my friends like you guys, like if you can, you need to get in on this. Like this is the audience you want. Like, you know, like you need to try and get this. Even if they double table prices, still a bargain. Like $100 for an 8-foot table, you bet. Sure, you know.
Maybe,
why not?
Maybe they'll even expand it. Maybe it'll be 2 days instead of 1 too. You know?
Yeah, it'd be great. But anyway,
Gary,
super nice.
Can you full screen me for a second?
Oh my god. Let's see here. How do we?
So I just won, and I just wanted to point out who I was playing against: an intermediate, master, expert, intermediate, and intermediate. So I beat a master just now.
How do I full screen you?
No, that was. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So anyhow, that was.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, you did it.
You did it. Okay.
So so that was cool. Anyhow, and now
Nice.
I'm a master.
Congratulations, you're a master. When you left, you're about the learner. Now,
sorry about that. And now I get to do comics, but I apologize for.
No, look, that's you know what?
I feel like we should go downstairs and get a beer just because you mentioned Star Wars.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Fun
really
stuff.
cool.
Anyway, super nice guy. He talked shop for a little bit about the writing and, you know, and the drawing and everything like that. It seems like a great, like I'm excited to read both these, like all 3 books I've shown so far. So there's that one. This was one. Okay, I encourage people to check this out, especially if you have more disposable income than me. This is Mike Kunkel's Hero Bear and the Kid. Okay. Mm-hmm. He had a book that he was selling. Are you guys familiar with this? Have you heard this? I hadn't heard of it.
I am, yes.
Okay. So the concept, the premise sounded very Calvin and Hobbesy to me. A kid gets a polar bear toy. It comes to life and it's his best friend. Okay. First of all, well, which order do I want to do it? I thought it was beautifully drawn. It was just beautiful cartooning. Like really, really, really like, and that this was, to me at least, out of nowhere, something I'd never heard of. It seemed like a fully formed, fully refined, very experienced person. Like, I mean, this looked like very, very skillful cartooning. I was very impressed with it. To me, like, I was like, this guy, I don't know what his background is. Maybe he has done this. He should be working at Pixar. He should be working at Disney. Like, it's that level of cartooning where it's like, this is next level stuff. Like, really, like, I wouldn't even know where to begin with this.
Yeah.
You know? And then the book, it was a compilation of, you know, all his stories with this. It was a hardcover about this thick, like a fairly, not oversized, but it was a big book with a slipcase.
Oh, wow.
And I was flipping through it and it was beautiful. Like, I wanted it. And like, he wasn't at the table at that moment. His wife or girlfriend was. And so I was flipping through it and I was complimenting. I was like, this is really great. I was like, so, and I just was bracing myself. I was like, so how much is this? Like, this big hardcover with a slipcase. And she was like, it's $100. And I was like, okay. I was like, look, I can't spend $100 today. Like, and I really mean this. I know people say this all the time. I've been on the receiving end of this. Please give me your cards and info. Like, I want to follow you. I want to keep up on you. And maybe someday I'll circle back. And like, and they're like, well, we're going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion. I was like, I will also be at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Maybe then, like, maybe like if I can plan for a couple months, like to buy $100 book, because it is beautiful and I would love to have it. But it's just like, I can't, even though I had made that money, I didn't want to be that guy who like, I made $300. Now I'm going to spend $300 at the con.
Yeah,
you know, like, I wanted to take some money home. So, you know, so it's like, but I would encourage you guys, especially if you have maybe $100 to spend on a beautifully done giant book of high level cartooning. Check out Hero Bear. Like,
it sounds like a beautiful book too, just the way you described the printing.
It's been around for a while.
I had never encountered it, but I was.
That's part of the fun, isn't it? Like, it's been around for a while, but you just found out about it. It's actually, I looked it up while you were talking. It first came out 20 years ago, and
how long?
It has 20 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I was totally unaware of this guy. He did come back when I was wrapping up, and I told him, I was like, you know, I was just talking to, you know, gesturing at this other person. I don't know who she was. I was like, I really love it. It's really, really well done, really beautiful. And I'm going to seek you out at Fan Fusion. Yeah, I promise. And I know from being on the receiving end, you're kind of like, yeah. You know, like, I appreciate that. Yeah. But I do want to. Like, I was really impressed by it.
Awesome.
The other one I picked up, Under the Cottonwood Tree.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
That was my booth mate. We had him on Artcasters. I was boothing right next to him for LA Comic-Con, and he's an excellent guy. Just like super good filmmaker, smart guy, and beautiful book. Yeah.
Like, the cover alone stopped me in my tracks, and I have to admit, I'm always kind of skeptical when I see like a thicker, like, you know, perfect bound or trade. Like, this isn't perfect, is it?
It is.
Yeah, it's perfect. Saddle stitches. Yeah, perfect. I always think like, this is going to be 20 or 30 or 40 bucks. I don't know if I've never even heard of this. Do I really want to do this? And, but I got to talking to the gentleman who was at the table, and I'm assuming it was Carlos Meyer. Well, I don't know if it was Carlos or Paul. Him and his wife. It's like New Mexican fairy tale kind of, you know, what they're doing here. Again, like, I was interested in kind of locally, like, something that's tied to a location. I was looking for that kind of stuff. I got to talking to him and his wife.
Did he have like a kind of hipster haircut, like chops?
No, but he had a kind of a hipster vest going on.
Okay, so it probably was Paul Meyer. I would imagine.
Maybe. Yeah. Like, I see now. I'll have to look them up, and I'd be able to tell you when I saw the lineup. I'd be able to say it was that guy. But
okay.
I got and this is a good tip for all of us. Anyone out there who's never conned before. I can't tell you how many books I've bought Now, first of all, I'm not saying I only bought it for that reason. I loved the cover. I flipped through it. It looked beautiful. Like, it looked interesting. I loved the pitch of like a New Mexican fairy tale, you know, like, and it's not, this is not like a hard, gruesome, like crazy, edgy book. It's like, it seems like it's a more of a Pan's Labyrinthy sort of like fantastical, like, you know, I was like, yeah, I'd be down for that. But what tipped me over the edge was they were delightful. Yes. They were very nice to talk to. And if you will sit and talk to someone for a little bit and they're nice, to walk away without buying anything is hard. Like, that's a real, like, you end up being like, I at least want to get something. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to support something, you know, and they were, and this is like a good tip. Don't sit there buried in your phone. Don't act like it's all you can do just to be there. Don't be hungover. Like, you know, like, seriously, like, you're at work, you know, like, and it's a customer service job. You know, like, and if you can do that, I'm not going to name names, but I have bought books I did not give a shit about, you know, because I had a nice conversation with the creator. Yep. You know, and it's like, I want to support you. Like, you seem cool. You're trying. Let me buy something, you know, like, and that has happened. Usually I try to buy something that I actually want to read, but sometimes you're like, you're cool, you know, like, I'll, you know, and I've taken some of your time. I'm going to buy something. Yep. A good thing for people to remember when they're boothing, you know.
I would also say, like, Paul is an excellent guy, and you should check out the Artcasters episode where we had him on. He was not only is he really good at selling, but he is an incredible booth mate as well. Like, so he doesn't carnival bark, he doesn't like pull people from your table, and we had just a blast just making jokes and talking.
I must have missed the one where I'm going to have to go back and find whichever episode that was. This was one, I forgot how I heard about this. It seemed like lots of people were aware of it, and I knew lots of people came by our booth. Damon was hip to this, and people would say, like, I hear the black cloak person is here. I got to find that booth. I got to find that booth. And like Damon was like, oh, right. Like, people were very hip to Black Cloak. I knew I had heard of it, but I've never read it. So, and he was like, oh no, you got to check it out. Like, it's great. It's a good book. And the art is very, I'm going to try and find a good representative. It's distinctive looking. I like the kind of limited color palette. I'm a big fan of that now. I know it's kind of trendy, but it's trendy for a reason. You know, I think it's kind of cool. And so I went over, and the Kelly Thompson, one of the creators, was there. I talked to her a little bit. Again, another example. I would have bought the book probably anyway, but she was super warm and chatty and nice. And that, like, once you get there and you look at the book and the person's fun to talk to and they seem nice, you're kind of like, I should buy something. You know, like, you don't want to be like, well, okay, cool, well, good luck, and walk away after, you know, people do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you do, but
you're like, I'm also not saying you're not.
I'm not saying you're not. Like, I'm saying, you know, like, again, with that analogy of like, you're at work, if you're at the booth, on the flip side of that, they're at work. Like, you know, like, if you went into a shoe store and like, I want to try this on, I want to try this on. Can you see it in the back if you've got a 9? Like, and then you burn 30 minutes of their time and you're like, yeah, okay, well, cool. I'm going to keep looking. And you walk out, you're kind of an asshole. Like, you know, like, and like, I'm sorry, you know, and I think anyone who's been in the other side of that, you know that. But if you've been lucky enough to live your whole life and not have done customer service or sales or anything, or retail, and or you have low emotional intelligence, you just don't appreciate what you're doing to that other person, like, you kind of know, like, don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who gets infinite samples at the ice cream counter. It's like, now I want to try the strawberry, you know, like, pick 2 and, you know, come on, stop it. But anyway, so you can get a sense of the art style. It's a visually attractive book. I was hearing good things, and I could tell that a lot of people were. That's kind of an interesting. That's a compelling 2 panels, like this close the dead tree, and then the gate opens, and it's this kind of, like, I don't know. It's like, it's intriguing.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of like, maybe this is also an example of good word of mouth. Lots of people are coming by saying like, where is Kelly Thompson's table? Mm-hmm. And that's enough to be like Chris Ward, my friend Chris Ward says all the time, nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like enough people are saying like, where's Kelly Thompson? It only takes 2 or 3 times where I'm like, I guess I got to go look at Kelly Thompson, you know? So like that. And then again, she was delightful. So like, it's this, like all the obstacles to buying just start getting removed. And you're like, well, I guess I should check out Black Cloak and see what the deal is with that.
That's awesome.
And then finally, this guy has been doing a webcomic, I guess, for 20 years. And he just constantly, it's about a guy who's obsessed with comics and his wife that he likes almost as much as comics. And this was the pitch from his wife who was at the table with him.
Oh, that's funny.
And he, every so often, he gathers up his webcomics into a big book and like puts out a new issue. And he always does like an homage cover. So he always tries to find some retro looking, you know, like he finds some retro cover he likes and does something like that. They also have a podcast. One thing that, this is another just, I don't know how to utilize this tip, but so I was walking by with this under my arm, mm-hmm. and she, the wife, said, oh, great book. Like, she's like, that's a great one. She's like, we reviewed it on our podcast. Because we have a podcast, a comics podcast, where we focus on Latino and Latina comic creators.
Oh, nice.
We talk, you know, and I guess at least for me, who's sort of like on the YouTubes and doing all that, it's sort of like that's enough to stop you and be like, oh, that's interesting. And like, what other books have you talked about? And like, you start chatting, and then you find, well, what are you selling here? And then it's like, well, he's got this webcomic and he compiles it. It's just enough to kind of add. What Damon, the guy next to me, the Kaiju Libre guy, described it as, he's like, it's just enough friction, mm-hmm. where like someone can't just glide by. Like you just add just enough friction where now they kind of have to stop and like talk to you a little bit. So it's like, we have a podcast where we review comics, you know, like that kind of thing. And you're like, oh, really? And then you talk, or they see something you're carrying and they go like, that's a good book. It's good that you bought that, you know, and like that's enough to kind of make you stop and like talk to them for a second. That's friction. Like, you know, now like you're there and now, you know, you don't realize it, but they've sort of tricked you into being a little captive where now maybe they can find a way into a pitch. So that's what I picked up. That's my limited haul from the con, but it was good. It was fun. I feel good about it. And I don't love unequivocally the con experience. I'm very neutral on it. You know, like it's like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's bad. And Scott Serkland and I have talked publicly a lot about, there have been times we've come away and said like, I think I'm done. Like, I think we're going to do that again, you know? And then you have a positive experience and you're like, it's like Tina and Ike Turner, where it's mm-hmm. like, you know, like cons are different now. Cons have changed. Cons have realized
you have some sales.
Cons have realized they can be kind of bad sometimes, and then the cons are trying to be better. Yeah, you know, like you get wooed back, but so
like have some sales. I'm not going to abuse you again. You're like,
yeah.
Baby, I'm like, crap. Why did I believe that sell?
I know. He told me it was going to be like the beginning again. You know, and like. He said it was going to be like the first con I went to when I was 16, you know.
All the artists coming back from cons look beat up, and people are like, what happened? You're like, just fell down some stairs. Nothing. Just...
Look, I pushed the cons buttons. I knew, I'm not blameless in this situation. But, yeah, no, it's, anyway, ugly jokes. I apologize if that's offensive to anybody. Domestic violence is a serious thing. I'm not saying that, but it's horrible. But sometimes that's how it feels. Like you do these and you're like, why do I put myself through that?
Yeah.
Like I come out of it the opposite of how I am right now. I come out of it more burned out. I come out of it more depleted. I come out of it more thinking like, why am I doing this? You know, like, so it's, But this was a positive one. This at least gives me a good boost, if nothing else, not only to finish 79, but with Phoenix Fan Fusion coming up in a few months, like it makes me feel like, all right, like that's a good experience to have going into a multi-day con, feeling like a con can be good. It can be like a very good experience. Like you never know, but sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
So
what's my dumb? It's like my dumb. I'm sure a lot of people do this, but I make like a big mental event out of it. Is that every time I do a con, I always say to myself, if you don't have a good con, like every con is always auditioning to be as part of your rotation next year. Every single one.
Yeah.
Like, so when I go in with that mindset of like, hey, sometimes there are bad cons, and if there is a bad one, I'm just never doing this one again. And that I don't know, there's something about that puts me in a good mindset where like you're here, you're going to enjoy yourself. Of course, you're going to be as awesome as you possibly can, but you're also going to keep that in the back of your head.
That's a good and I think the problem I have sometimes is, and this invites a lot more like funny metaphors about dysfunctional relationships, but because Phoenix Fan Fusion is in my backyard, I want it to work with Phoenix Fan Fusion. Like I want, like it has extra pressure. Like if I went to Emerald City and it sucked, it's like, oh, I'll just never go back. Like that's fine. Like so there's less pressure on Emerald City to be great. Emerald City doesn't have to be my soulmate. Like, like I don't care. Like if it works out great, that's great. If it doesn't, what's the big deal? Phoenix, though, it's like that's one of the like that's right here. Like it's home base. Like I want that to at least be cool, But now Phoenix Fan Fusion has a rival. Phoenix Fan Fusion's been getting a little comfy with me. And now Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival is showing up with flowers and holding up the boombox outside my window, like John Cusack could say, and it's like, I don't know. Like maybe I can be wooed. I don't know. But
I hope that's part of the future, man. I do. I think the big cons are, I hope that they're being served notice, because it's just, they're pop culture cons. Everybody's taking Comic-Con out of their name. Part of that is because if they get too cocky, San Diego sues them.
Which is insane, but yeah.
I know, but as a result, you have people going like Fan Fusion and Pop Culture Con, and then everybody leans into the pop culture thing, and before you know it, it's just nothing but Funko Pops. And so what the hope is that like I hope that there are dozens of these things that show up locally, and
there's a need.
Everybody has like twice a year kind of cons like this, like yours. Right.
Yeah, this is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I still intend to write an email to this Ryan Cody who organized it and say, like, you're doing God's work. Because, like, I saw this as proof of concept and, like, evidence of the need. Like, that there's an audience out there that's not being served by these big cons. Like, both sides of it. People who are trying to sell stuff and people who want to buy stuff. Like, they're not... And like that's something I left out about the con. Every table I stopped at where I chatted with, you're wearing your, where is mine? You're wearing your exhibitor badge. And this is like, you show up at another table and people immediately see this and they're like, how's it going for you? Like it's the same, you know how that is if you've been at a con. Like, how's it going? How's your show? Almost to like somebody I talked to had the same experience as me. It's like, it's been great. It's been awesome. And then it almost immediately went into talking shit about Phoenix Fan Fusion, about like how, especially compared to that, like this is a dream. Like this is exactly what we've wanted. And like there was one table I stopped at where I was talking to, it was a guy I sort of knew from like comic book shops. Like I couldn't tell you his name, but I recognized him, and he recognized me, and we're like, hey, how's it going? How'd the day go for you? And he's like, great, this is awesome. He's like, I hope they do this forever. And I was like, me too. And like, I think I was the one who opened up with like, I don't want Fan Fusion to go away, but there's room for this alongside. Like this, and like, cause I was like, I have to admit, like, I kind of am having a strained like, I don't know how I feel about Fan Fusion anymore. And the guy, the next table, he was overhearing this. He's like, what, you don't need a wall of Funko Pops? What, you don't need a, like, I mean, like everyone gets it. You know, everyone gets like, you don't need to go to the Cox Communications booth. You know, like, I mean, it's this garbage that has nothing to do with what any audience you could potentially sell to is coming for.
Well, and Gary, what's great is like there's palpable energy that I can just feel from you talking, like, and like a reset kind of energy where it's like, okay, now you can take that energy and put it into, you know, finishing Diva versus M.
Yeah.
And like it gives you a little boost. And that's what a con ideally should be.
Interacting with the people. Yeah. Should, you know, and the problem, and I've said this for years now, if you go back to like my fan fusion post-mortem videos from like 75 and 97, you know, like for that the fan fusion, your audience is there sort of, but there's so many obstacles to reaching them. You know, first of all, it's just like the massive, like, are they even going to find your booth? Mm-hmm. You know, like, are they even going to know to go into that section of the floor? Like, there was that one, Keith, I think you were, I don't remember if you were at this one. I don't remember what year it was. I'm sure you were. We were probably neighbors. You remember there was that fan fusion where they broke it up over several floors? And they had like, they had like celebrities on one floor. They had like weird entertainment experiences on another. And it was very apparent to all of us in Artist Alley that some people who were buying tickets and coming in didn't even know there was anything on the floor we were on. You know, like that, like all the traffic was going up to like where the signings were or other places. And there was no way anyone was even going to accidentally find you. You know, like they had to know you already, be a fan, have a program, find you on the map, and go through the maze to find you, you know? And it was just like all these kind of obstacles to even, I think it was actually the con where we met. I think it was probably that con where we just felt like it's going okay, but like almost in spite of Fan Fusion's decisions, you know, like they're almost designing this in a way to make it as hard as it could possibly be, you know? And, I think that's, I was like, where's my point in this? I think that's sort of the point. Like it was such a breath of fresh air to be in a con where it's all about like, this is about comic books. It's indie creators. Come if you want to see indie creators, you know, and it's very clear, you know, like what this is. This is not your opportunity to dress up as an anime character and walk the aisles to get pictures with strangers. This is not your opportunity to get an autograph from, you know,
William Shatner.
Yeah, William Shatner, or like, you know, like the Catwoman or something. You know, like this is like if you're into comic books, here's a comic book show. Like it had a completely different feel, completely different. But so anyway, clearly I'm sold, and I hope they do these forever. I hope there's news very soon about what's the plan for next year, so I can start amplifying and pass it to you guys, and you know.
Yeah, I think we should all meet up and get tables next to each other so we can have like a whole row, like
a row where and maybe like I did with Damon, like start like just snowballing, like whoever's on the end. Like if I'm on the end, it's like, are you into like, you know, Lovecraft and kaiju? You gotta check out this guy. And then he goes Keith, and Keith's like, are you into like, what if there was a comic that was like Ghost World meets Eternal Sunshine? Like, you should check out this guy. And they go to your booth, Josh. And like all the way down, like Scott Circleman's next to you.
No, that would be a power move if we all had like a whole row, and then each person just kind of agreed to support the person to their right or whatever. So we, whichever way it goes, so that we literally just pinball people.
It's like, it would be like having a whole side of the board in Monopoly where it's like, look, wherever you land, we got. And
then we can have the end kind of. Their job is to pitch the beginning again. So like, hopefully we can get them.
I don't know if you've seen it, but way on the end. Yeah,
that would be fun.
No, it'd be great. And again, if they do 8-foot tables again, especially for you guys that would have to travel, if you wanted to take that on, especially where end to end you could subdivide. It's like, well, you're getting 2/3 of a table, you're getting two, whatever. Like we could divide it up and share expenses a little bit or whatever. But I think that'd be amazing. But,
that's amazing. 8-foot tables too for $50. I still am just crazy. I am stunned by that. If they keep that pricing like that, I'm definitely going next year.
I hope he made money. I hope he made money with the table and then like the door.
Yeah.
I hope this like he at least broke even as like a proof of concept and now realizes like, okay, I'm going to bump up tables 75 or 100, which I still think is fair. Maybe leave door prices the same. I think door tickets were $10, which again, Fan Fusion, if you're listening, if you're charging people $50 to get in and $8 or $12 for a bottle of water, they have no money left to buy anything. Like you are just fucking Artist Alley. And there's no way to pretty that up. Like they have, especially now, and parking, they've spent $100 just to get there. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think they're going to buy my weird indie book, like that they've never heard of? Like, no, they're like, now they're like, I want a t-shirt or I want a toy, like they want something that's like a very safe,
the thing they already know about that they drove there.
They already know, they like I'm going to get like this ultimate edition of like Silver Surfer or something. Mm-hmm. That's like, it's my comfort food. It's like, they're not going to go crazy walking Artist Alley buying every indie book. They're already out $100. Like, so this guy again, like I'll give him, he has it right. Like I know there's no way to do it, but my mentality is like, how close to free can we make attendance? Like how really, like have them spend, even if it means you get 1% of my take, whatever, but like get people, like I want I
will say free is possible because TCAF in Toronto is literally free attendance, and because of that you get so much traffic. And
that would be great. Now that probably, because that's based in a public library or something.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So it would have to be like a public, service kind of thing, but it's possible.
In Canada. Which probably has a better sense of like, this is valuable, but what I would say is possible. So here in town, we were talking a lot yesterday at the con about a place I've talked about on here before, Wasted Ink Zine Distro. It's a place in Central Phoenix. I know the woman who runs it. It's just a whole shop of zines. And like some of them are handmade, and they're like the narrowest little niche topics you can imagine. Someone has made a zine for it, and they're like $3, $5, and $12. I've shown some of them before. Some of them are made on felt that they sewed together. Some of them they printed up in a copy shop. Some they hand did 15 identically. It's only 15 they've ever made, and they put them in the zine shop. Amazing, crazy stuff. How to make weed brownies, what it's like to be, bi or queer or whatever. Like every crazy topic you can think of, there's like, a zine on it. And Damon, I guess, had visited there and was asking like her, I've never felt the moxie to actually ask her, but he was fearless. I guess he was like, so how do you, like you're in a shop, like how are you keeping this going? There's no way you're selling enough of this stuff to like keep a shop going. And there's grants. Like she's expert level grant writing, like requests. And I was thinking like that's something maybe a Ryan Cody for like this fest could think about. Like, is there a way to offset any of your overhead with some grants and therefore pass that savings along to the door, where like maybe you're a $5 ticket, $10 ticket, $15 ticket. I think everybody kind of wins if you can pull that off. I don't know how it works, but I would be interested in exploring that if I were him. It's also something I might throw out there. Like I said, I intend to write him a letter saying like, please, any way I can help. Like this is like, please do more of this. But
and including, you need to pitch Artcaster's Isle. I'm just saying.
That's right. Artcaster's Making Comics Lane. The mega aisle. The super band, the super group of the
Voltron of comic convention.
Yeah. It's the Voltron. Voltron. We'll nickname it Voltron Lane, and it'll just be
Gary, you can form the head.
Maybe I want to be. Who do I want? Do I want to be Green Lion or Red Lion? I don't know, but like we'll have to call our lion. But let's see. Okay, I've been totally neglecting the chat. Let's see if how to make self-inserts people love the Salazar zine. Oh my god. Free attendance. You have decent food vendors, tables, lots of comics. Yeah, I mean, you just got to figure out like what's the
pretty much free, man. You know, like I go to. There's a record show. It's last Sunday of the month here in Orange County. It was actually today. I didn't feel like going because I bought records last month. But I mean, you pay $5-10 to get in, man. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. $10 to get in is like the local VFW, like a record show.
Nothing.
Like,
that's a like food truck event. You know, like that's not a con.
Not a
that's incredible. Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah, and I get like in the event that I might send him this link after and say like I was just raving about your con for a live stream, but I get it. You know, if you're watching this later, Ryan, I get like it needs to make financial sense to you, and you can't like lose money. Like and to me, my impression, I'll be very open with this. It all seemed very cheap, like cheap tables, cheap ticket prices. Like I get like you might have to bump up things, but I also think like part of like what made it work is like, again, like you removed a lot of the barriers to entry that for example, a Fan Fusion has, or like on the far in the spectrum, like a San Diego Comic-Con. Like San Diego Comic-Con, I used to go almost every year. Too expensive, too much of a pain in the ass, like, and too like pop culture now. Like it's already now like it's not even attractive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can go like you don't want to drift too far. Like I get like you might need to make more financial sense, and I'm open to that. But like I think the key of what made it great is like it didn't go that direction where it was like $200 tables.
Yeah,
and $35 at the door, and weird, like, just this kind of $8 waters and $12 ham sandwiches. Like that doesn't help anybody who's tabling. But it's a lot of Frank Salazar. Let's see here. This is probably about me saying how I found someone charming, so I bought something. Now, Frank, I bought your thing because I was afraid you might show up at my house if I didn't. I was intimidated and scared of you. I was just like, whatever, man, whatever. Just like here, just I'll take it.
I had to take off because my kid needs something. Okay. So, but thank you for having me on. You rock.
Thank you for coming by.
Okay, nice hanging with you, Keith. As well.
Same, Josh. Congratulations on the win.
I feel really good about it. I literally did not expect on stream to go from from
Australia to all of it. See, the Australian
to become a master.
You pulled it off.
Yeah,
you pulled it off.
That's pretty cool. All right.
And it was a tricky. I was looking and I was like, he could do this, but it's not going to really be easy. Like everything, like it all has to kind of work right.
It was a slow, patient play, and the two killed each other just like I was hoping.
Well, this is good intelligence for gathering for me when we play. Just
now you know my Australia
did that where I'm like, okay, guys, this round interrupt Josh is the plan. Like
for sure.
Like,
if I'm in Australia, I'm kind of screwed.
Don't be fooled. Yeah. Don't be fooled by his nice guy thing. He's playing a long game. Let's get him now. Get him now.
Take him early. All right.
That's right. Don't let him get too dug in. Like it's not going to help anybody.
Gary, I am stoked that you had a good con, and I cannot wait to do it again. And Keith, I hope if you do like an Arizona thing for this con next year, let me know, and maybe we can all like have a caravan from
California. There you go,
man. Sounds good.
All right. All right. See you later, Josh.
Half the screen is now mine.
Look at that. Look,
he leaves. And I expand my screen presence. It's amazing.
You feel like you can breathe a little bit.
I can, yeah.
So I have basically like monologued the whole time. What is new with you? What's going on with you? What is your plan today?
Well, I mean, I jumped on because it was your show, dude. I appreciate the invite. I'm just here to I'm just here to throw nice lobs for you to dunk home.
There we go.
Let's see. What am I working on? I mean, I'm actually on this screen over here. I'm up to page 10. I'm lettering Kadoja #2. That's the one that the Kickstarter just closed mid last week on. So I'm doing that. I'm grinding through a couple stories, which I talk about a lot on Making Comics. I think I'm now at the point where both. Okay, so one story is finished. And another story I now feel good about, and I'll have to do another pass or edit or two, right? Like that's the cool thing about editing short stories. You know, when you edit a novel, you edit, you get to the point where 15 pages are polished and nice. You do a whole workshop for them. You wait a week, you know, to get it back. You get it, and then you're like, oh, good. These 15 pages look really nice. I'll just put them over here, and now it's time for me to work on the other 335. You know, like that's you know, like that's the sort of thing you're signing up for. But with a short story, it's like a 4-page comic. You know, like you just you do it, it's done, it looks tight, and then you can do something with it. So yeah, man,
well,
that's
you can run through, I would think, an editing session in a sitting. You know, which is not possible with a novel. Like this is going to be a week or weeks to kind of go through, you know, and give that a spit polish.
Yeah.
Like,
while I was in the green room waiting to get admitted, I was actually finishing up my lettering work for the day, and it made me realize how much fun it is to just listen to people talk as I do work, because that's not how I work. You know, you and Scott talk all the time about people who are drawing to this, or people who are doing, you know, like it's a very good thing to draw to, and I get that because of drawing is. Writing is just not like that. Like I can't listen to people talk. You know, I generally don't even like, I definitely don't like music with intelligible words, right? I like either jazz or instrumental funk or death metal, because death metal doesn't really have intelligible words a lot of the time.
Right. You can't even tell. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same. When I'm in script writing mode, I listen to a lot of like soundtracks, and I'm sure it has a genre, and you know, I'm not embarrassed to admit this, like kind of what I would characterize as like spa music, like just kind of like, you know, it's like tones and it's pretty and it's just sort of something in the background, you know, like but it's not something where I'm like listening to it, you know, it's just it's a noise machine. You know, like there's no sound. I'm not getting empty sound. I'm not hearing tinnitus, you know, and then on top of that, it has like a mood, like a feel to it. I do try to pick, like, if I can find soundtrack music or something or instrumental or whatever that has like the mood I'm going for, like that's nice. You know, it's not a requirement, but it's nice if I can find, like, you know, soundtrack to a movie, like if I know I'm writing something that's kind of dark and tense, and if I can find a soundtrack that's sort of like that, like that's ideal. But whatever.
That is all my soundtracks, because everything I write is dark and tense.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I'm totally there.
I'm excited about it. I've had plans for a long time to do, once I'm ready to maybe announce pre-orders, I'm gonna cut together a trailer for 1979, and I found some music for it that, you know, will be playing, and that I'm very excited about. And I've actually listened to it while I've been drawing, you know, because it's like, I feel like it has a good, like, it's the kind of vibe I want. So, but it's been tough for like months now. I've been sitting on, I found some music and it's like, yeah. Like, I can't wait to do the trailer. And like, it's just been sitting, waiting for, you know,
No, I mean, that's cool. But yeah, what I like about lettering is that I can listen to anything again. You know, I'm teasing a little bit of what Scott and I talk about in a week or two, again, whenever it airs, because we were talking about our retreat, and how for the first part of it, I just threw on jazz for exactly what we were talking about. The writing required a high level of focus. Yeah. And then once I was done with that, once I had finished the first story, I then switched to hip hop. I'm like, oh, okay, I can relax a little bit here. And what I was doing was I was writing the scenes to Kadoja. That allows weaving in and out of thought. Like, you know, like I can put sports on, I can put a record on, I can do that kind of stuff while I'm writing a comic script, especially one that I've already outlined and put, you know, the page outline on this page, this thing happens. So much easier. And so it was like a mini vacation to be able to not just have to focus that much while I was writing.
Yeah.
No, I also saw Quantumania last night. Have you seen that?
I have not yet. So what did you think?
I really liked it.
Okay. Yeah. I am so to help me gauge that, what has been your overall opinion of the first two Ant-Man movies?
Okay, so the thing is, I'm not sure I even saw them.
Okay.
I will say this. So, I mean, Gary, I'm sure you have a basic understanding of what happens in Quantumania, right?
Yes.
And I'm assuming they get shrunk down into the quantum realm.
Yes.
And what I was
apparently, or a version of Kang apparently is.
Yeah. So I don't want to build your expectations a little too much. But I will say that there was a period. There always seems to be a period in these halfway through things where you get these great, like, holy shit, this is X good. And then it has to wrap up plot and has to adhere to its, you can almost feel like the rigid Marvel structure kind of trapping it in.
Yeah.
It becomes a fine movie. But there was a period where I thought that I'm not saying this is true, but there's a period where I thought this might be the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy.
I've heard a lot of people saying like that this is like making Star Wars comparisons with this, and I haven't seen it yet. It's weird.
Yeah, just like an epic world with brand new people and all kinds of wild shit. Like I thought it was really good, and I love, like, Jonathan Majors is awesome.
Yeah, well, I really liked him in the Loki series. I thought he was cool. So
this makes me want to go back and rewatch it. I was just telling my wife that last night because I was seeing it to kill time because I dropped my kid off at a party, and it was one of those, like, it was like 4 hours, and it was a little further away from home, so it doesn't make sense to go home, but it also doesn't, like, I'm not gonna camp in a Starbucks for 4 hours and write. I need something, so that's why I went to see the movie. And yeah, man, I really liked it. Like, again, the reviews from what I've heard aren't that great, but it
seems like kind of lukewarm, or a mixed, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure I will watch it. I'm behind because, again, I'm drawing mode, but I still haven't even seen Wakanda Forever, which I'm interested in. I do want to. I did really like the first one. I don't feel like I liked it as much as some people did, but I did like, Black Panther. So enough to be interested in the sequel, but I just haven't found time.
Me either. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody I talk to, every time I ask them, how was it? They all say it was good.
Which doesn't make you feel a lot of urgency. Yeah. They're like, it was good. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well,
I'm not anybody saying I need to stop what I'm doing because they're about to ruin the image of the style that they're used to.
This is why I probably won't get around to it until I'm done drawing. Because it's just like, I don't know if I can take 2.5 hours to watch a movie that's good. I don't. Yeah, like if I'm gonna take a break, it's gonna be for something that I think is gonna be awesome. And not for something that's fine.
Yeah, and to a person, again, everybody for Wakanda Forever is just like, it was good. Yeah, and then that's it. Then they stop talking. They don't tell me about any scene they love. They don't tell me about. They say it's plenty sad, and it's like that has as much to do with it as anything too. I'm like, I'm not ready to sign up for a sad 2 hours of my life just yet.
Right. I think I'm most for that one. I'm most interested, of course, in probably seeing Namor, and just seeing like how they do him and. Assuming that he's going to become now like a fixture, going forward. It's like, well, I'm kind of, you're introducing a very big, important character. I think, haven't they said he's basically the first official mutant in the MCU or something? Like, so it's like, okay, I'm curious about that. But like, otherwise I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. Like, and it sounds like it's fine. But so that I will eventually see Quantumania. I think there was another. I still haven't even seen Eternals, which was another one that just had this weird mixed reaction that
I really liked Eternals. I really liked it.
Yeah, you liked it, and I think Scott was lukewarm on it, right?
Scott liked it a fair amount too. I think we're more on the outliers. I mean, number one, I like slow burn stuff. I'm fine with it. Eternal was a slower burn, and it's also like super duper Jack Kirby, right? And so I'm thrilled by those things.
Yeah, so I have to see that. I have not seen. I still haven't seen the Thor movie, Love and Thunder, which seems like a lot of people were really like, that was garbage. And like, I'm kind of shocked because I like the director and it's the same, like, is it really that bad? But I don't know.
I don't think it's garbage. I think there's two movies fighting for supremacy within the movie. One is overly goofy and one is overly serious. My opinion is that the overly serious movie should have been paid more attention to, because Christian Bale is unbelievable as
I hear he's great. Yeah. Well, he's always great. Like he'll at least deliver. So that's one of those where I'd say, like, dude, I love Gore the God Butcher anyway. Like I was a fan of that arc when it first came out in the Thor comics. So, for me, I was definitely on board for that. But yeah, so I mean, you can make your own judgment on that. Yeah, and I will. That's another one I will see. And then the last is still haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special.
That's a fun version. Yeah, it's not Christmas anymore, which makes it kind of hard.
It makes it, but I feel like I do intend and expect to see the next movie, which is this year, right? I think it's this year. So I'll probably it's something I'll probably want to try and watch. I don't know if it'll really make a huge difference, but I'll probably try to watch it before.
So. Yeah. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
Finishing this page and getting to 4 pages left. So, which is very doable. I'm at the, without actually seeing my process, it's a little abstract, but when I'm building a page, I kind of do a mini Slack method where I kind of hop around, you're getting your basic shapes and lines in, you do your backgrounds here and there, you're kind of building up everything, and so there's a point where everything is there. And now it's the flare. Now it's some shadows, some little blood effects, some little let's do some wild hairs on this person. Let's make it now something. And I'm at that point of it where I need to put in I need to block. This has become the comic of weirdo lighting. I don't know how. I didn't intend that when I wrote it, but that's just the way it's going. And I never shy from that because I think it makes for a more fun visual experience. But in this one, I've got a character who's this page. I've got a character who's really backlit. So it's a character looking at something. You need to be able to see the character's expression, but strongly backlit. So I'm going to be today kind of finding the balance between I need her sort of front silhouetted, but not so much that you can't make out her expression, So find where is that perfect, one end of the spectrum. So imagine I'm backlit. One end of the spectrum would be basically silhouetted with some rim lighting here, where you can kind of see my ears, you can kind of see the sides of my face. That's one end. The other end is just to probably lazily not even do it. But between those two is so if this is the shadow on my face, I can go narrower and narrower or wider and wider. To me, it's going to be finding that balance where you really get the impression backlit looking into a dark room. So there's a significant shadow there, but not so much that you can't make out what's going on this person's face. So that's what I'll be playing with today is where on the slider am I, is that too much? Is that too little? Let's try it this way. And then something I think I have been talking about, I don't remember. I know I've talked about this with other people offline. I have a character who has had kind of a gnarly experience and is more or less covered in blood, and covered in injuries. So blood stains on their clothes, blood on their hands, injuries on their face, they've been through the ringer. Layering all that in, because when I'm drawing it, I'm sort of drawing them clean, and then one of my last stages is all right, let's get all the the injuries and stuff in, and that takes time. you're not messy about that. Like it's kind of, but you don't want it to look. It's almost like going full circle. Simple packaging is harder than, like poorly in an Amazon box. Like to make someone look like a mess, but not make it look like you just took your brush and went like, and just like called it a day. Like that's a very tough, like you need it to look messy but not intentional, and messy but also calculated. It's a weird game. So that's today.
No, that's I mean, I think I get the feeling I know which side of this you're falling on, but you said flair. I mean, a lot of this is that, right? Like you were saying, you get the basics of the page down, and then comes all this other stuff. And like, the two things I have done, writing, flair can be a real pain in the ass, right? Like, especially when it doesn't matter actually what the scene is. Sometimes it can be a very businessy scene where, I don't know, you need the character to walk down the street somewhere. Just for whatever reason, the character needs to walk down the street. So it's not exciting. It's not particularly revealing. You have to have something happen. But just like, fuck, I really just want to get to this other scene and do that, right? Where musical flair is always the most fun. Because musical flair, you could just have like a riff or whatever doing its thing. And then you might just add like a xylophone, bling, or you might have a synth wash just going like, right. and all you do is just, and that kind of shit elevates a song. Where the writing flair, it's not fun to sit down to. And I get the feeling that the artistic flair goes way harder to the writing side than it does to the musical side. It's
a little like with your analogy of like, you just, I have a panel of a guy walking down the street, let's say. And that's not, like it's a kind of functional. It's like, for whatever reason, it's like, I need to establish he went from here to here, or I need to have a scene where I have a thought bubble of him, like it's whatever you're trying to do with it. There's the functional reason it exists. But then at the last stage, like the stage I'm at with this page, it's like, okay, well, this is a visual medium though. Like, so it can't just be this workman panel that's getting you from A to B. Like it's got to be something to look at here. And that's where you're like, do I have a cat in the alley? Like, do I have a newspaper, like a hobo, who says hobo anymore, but a hobo sleeping on a bus stop bench? Like, like what am I doing to make some visual interest here to show that I didn't just do like, here's the guy, he's walking, let's move on. Like, no. Like, every panel makes me think of the Monty Python. I don't know why this popped in my head, but the Monty Python meaning of life song. Like, every sperm is sacred. Every panel is sacred. Like, every panel needs to be worthy. Like it's a piece of art. It's something you're making the reader look at. Don't waste their time. Don't show them something half-weak. Do something, sex this up somehow, and so that's kind of with this. It's like, I have all the skeleton in. Characters looking into a dark room, they have light behind them, they're seeing a thing. All right, in a way, I'm sort of done, but now it's like, okay, but like, how do I,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
All right, man. I guess I'm gonna roll.
We're to almost 2:15. So thank you for coming by. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, appreciate it as always.
Yeah, and then so for everyone watching, like I said, I'll be back Saturday, same time, 11 a.m. Arizona time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific now, I think. Keith, anything you want to pitch before I sign off?
I mean, if you like the books you see there, if you like, I did the pitch earlier, right?
Yes.
Night Monsters Meet H.P. Lovecraft, Kung Fu in Space. If you like those things, my name is basically my website, keithrfoster.com. Sure. Check them out. Yeah.
Check out there. And then definitely seek out the Making Comics podcast. Especially like you like today, if you like creators talking about like, selling your thing, going to cons, dealing with feedback, all of that. I mean, you should be probably subscribed to the Making Comics podcast because that's going to be totally in your wheelhouse. So, okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Keith. See you all next week.